I never film sit-down videos over here, but thought it'd be fun to mix it up. I'm going to tell you today the 25 books that I have to read in 2025. As I'm filming this, we are coming to the end of 2024. My 24 books to read this year didn't go brilliantly. Largely, I think, because I gave almost no thought to the list. I just picked 24 books at random. I'm not making that mistake again. I've actually given this some thought. So in today's list, we have a combination of new releases that I'm excited to get to, some books that I don't own yet but I am excited to get to, and then a few books that have been on my TBR for a very long time, and this is kind of a push to make myself read them. Okay, I have a fun graphic here which I will share with you at the end. So this is what we're going to be using to track throughout the year to check we are on schedule. I think we're going to have to read about 2 a month to get that goal, which I think is so possible that I did think that last year. Nonetheless, I'm genuinely really excited about this list. I have some books on here that I'm very, very excited about, and then some that just need reading, so this is my push to read them. So we're going to go through them in the order that I have them here, and we're going to chat about them. First up, to absolutely nobody's surprise, Intermezzo by Rooney. Are we surprised? No, I doubt it. I'm not going to bang on about it for too long. We all know my conundrum of whether or not to just bite the bullet and get the hardcover or to wait for the paperback. I'm still having that conundrum. The library has like 4-month waiting holds for it. The people want to read it. I get it. I want to read it. I'm very excited. I've loved everything Rooney has written. I cannot wait to get to this one, but sadly I fear I may have to wait a tiny bit longer. But that's all I'm going to say on that one, because I've done nothing but bang on about that book for the last like 3 months. Next we have The Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood. Actually one of the only books that I DNF'd last year. I want to come back to it because I genuinely think it was a really interesting concept. But oh my goodness, I started reading it and I was like, this is so dark. And I love dark books. Most of what I read is dark. Something about that book, or the time I read it, I don't know. It was not for me in that moment. But I do want to come back to it. So I'm putting it on this list. This is one that I am pushing myself to read. It's like a dystopia about these women who get taken, I guess, and they're kept in this dungeon and they've had their head shaved. And that's really as far as I have got. I read like 60 pages and I was like, nope. But nothing much had happened, but I was still just like, I don't know, I can't explain it. But I read the blurb and I'm like, no, this is something I really could like. So I do want to push myself to try and read that one this year. So that's why it's on here. Technically I've already started it, but it was so long ago that when I do pick it up again, I will start from the beginning. Number 3. A Court of Winds and Ruin. It took me a very long time to pick up the first one, and then a very long time to pick up the second one. I would like to pick up the third one while I have some semblance of memory of what happened in the second one. The second one I feel like so much happened and I'm expecting even more to happen in the third one, and I just know myself, if I don't pick it up soon, it's not happening. Also, BookBeat, which is my audiobook app, have just got all of the ACOTAR books on audiobook. So I could audiobook it, although I have no idea if that is a good idea, because this is a mammoth book, which is why I'm scared of it, which is why it's on this list, to encourage me, because it's like, is it like 800 pages? It's something crazy. It's something crazy, and I don't read big books, and I don't really read fantasy, so. But I've read the first 2, they were fast, they were fun, I want to get to the third one, I'm a little intimidated. I know this one is very like war and politics heavy, and to be honest, like big battles in books are really not my favourite thing. I'm just a little bit scared. Feel free to give me encouragement in the comments if you love this book, because I know people love this series. So like, I'm excited to get to it, I'm just intimidated. Next we have The Girls by Emma Cline. I read The Guest and yes, it was absolutely in my top 10 of the year for 2024. I loved it. I also am kind of like halfway through her short story collection, so I really, really like her writing, and I think The Girls is her most popular one. I don't really know what it's about, but having read The Guest, I feel like Emma Cline might be one of those authors where I'm just going to read anything she writes. I know it's like silly to say that after having only read one book, but I loved The Guest. I loved it so much. Next we have Ghosts by Dolly Alderton. I read Good Materials, loved it. I then saw Dolly Alderton talk in Edinburgh and I just thought she was so fun. She seems like such a cool person, and it just made me very intrigued to read her debut. It sounds kind of similar-ish vibes to Good Materials, except that that one is a female main character and Good Materials was a male main character. But I think it's going to be along the same vein of like finding yourself in your 30s and like life in your 30s. I don't know, I think it's something I'm going to connect to. Not that I'm in my 30s, but I just think I'm going to love it because I really found good material, like such a comforting read. So I'm hoping Ghosts will be as well. Then, talking of Edinburgh, this is a book I found in a like indie bookstore in Edinburgh. I didn't end up picking it up because I had no room left to get it home, but I haven't stopped thinking about it, and so I want to read it, and that is Everyone I Know Is Dying by Emily Slapper. If anyone has read this, please let me know your thoughts, because I haven't heard a single review of it. I wonder how many Goodreads reviews it has. Oh, it's only got 700 ratings. Okay, cool. Well, I want to read this. It sounds up my alley. It says it's about mental health crises, the societal pressures on young women, and toxic relationships from one of the most exciting new literary voices. Perfect for fans of Cleo and Frank, you know I love that book, and Sorrow and Bliss, which I actually haven't read yet, but I do own and I'm so excited for. So, you hear what I'm saying? I think I'm gonna love it. I don't know, the cover intrigued me when I found it in Edinburgh, and I've just not stopped thinking about it. I can get this again on audiobook, so I might do that, or I might just have to buy it because it's gorgeous. Like, it's so pretty. Anyway, next we have, I'm excited for this one, Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. We all know how I feel about Lisa Jewell. I am a fangirl through and through. I love her. Again, I actually saw her talk in Edinburgh, and she was basically saying that her 3 most popular books were The Family Upstairs, None of This Is True, and Then She Was Gone. And the only one of those 3 I haven't read was Then She Was Gone, and I love all of her books. She just writes thriller in the way I like it written. I say this all the time, but she has this real emotional depth to her characters, this like literary feel to the thrillers, but still the pace of a thriller. It works for me. And the fact that she considers this, and kind of like readers consider this one of her top 3 or like her 3 most popular, I want to read it. I've also heard that it's maybe her darkest of like any book she's ever written, so yeah, I want to get to that. Next, one of the books that is on here to kind of encourage me to actually read it, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I'm scared of this series, but a friend of mine is reading it at the moment and is giving every single book 5 stars. Like, he is loving it. And equally, I've seen lots of booktubers who don't even read sci-fi reading it and loving it. So I want to get to it. I'm just intimidated. I'm pretty good, I think, at reading out of my comfort zone. Like, I read almost every genre, but I will say sci-fi is one that I tend to steer clear of. Not like necessarily on purpose, I just don't read a lot of it. But I think this one is something to do with, no, I don't know, I'll look it up. Okay, so we're following Darrow, who is a red, and they are the lowest caste in a society that is colour-coded, and he works all day to make Mars livable for future generations. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. So I think it's like there are red castes and gold. Golds are like the elites. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Red Queen. Is that just because they both have red in the title? I don't know. I think it's meant to be like an uprising, that kind of story. I've heard amazing things, which is why I own it and why I want to read it, but I think simply the genre is intimidating to me. I also want to read, it's not on this list, but I also want to read Project Hail Mary, because I feel like that's another one that people always say is just incredible whether you read the genre or not. Okay, in a slightly different vein, the next book on this list is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, because I have never read an Ali Hazelwood and I just feel like it's time. I also got, over on my Instagram, I was doing a blindly opening an advent calendar, a book advent calendar. I was doing that all through December. Go follow me if you're not already. And I also got in that calendar, I got Bride. And I feel like Bride is maybe not the place to start with Ali Hazelwood. That being said, a few people told me it's where they started and they loved it, so maybe it is. But I've put Love Theoretically on this list because I feel like that is maybe more of a classic Ali Hazelwood, and then maybe we'll go do the whole werewolf thing. I feel that's the order to do it in. But what do I know? I've never read from her before. If anyone has an opinion, let me know. But for this list, I've gone with Love Theoretically. It's a STEM romance. She's a fake girlfriend or something, and I want to say she is like the fake girlfriend to the main guy's brother. It's something along those lines. I don't totally know. Next, oh, this is an anticipated release for me. Well, it's released, so it's just anticipated. The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. She wrote one of my favourite books of, was it 2023? It must have been, The Push. I am literally obsessed with that book. It's like top 5 books ever. So how could I not pick up her next book? I've read the blurb for this a bunch of times and I don't it doesn't really give you a lot. It kind of sounds like some sort of domestic thriller. It really doesn't give you very much in the blurb. And like the title, the cover, it's a little mysterious. But after the push, let me just tell you, my expectations, they're up here. They're up here, babe. I'm so excited. Oh, I literally spoke about this book a minute ago. We have Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. Another one where the blurb doesn't give you a whole lot, but there was one line in the blurb that made me buy this book. I was in a charity shop and I saw this line and I was like, yeah. I've actually never heard of this book, but this line sold it for me, and that was something about the main character, I think she's called Martha, finding it harder to be alive than most people. It just screamed to me that I was gonna love it. It was giving messy women, maybe female rage, literary fiction, lots of buzzwords for me. This one actually has quite high ratings and quite a lot of ratings, and yeah, I guess I'm living in a bubble because I've never heard of it. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. Then, I can't actually show you a picture for this next one because we have not yet seen the cover. I believe it's called, actually I don't even know, it's the sequel to Bunny by Mona Awad. It's called something like Bunny, We Love You. Oh, so close. We Love You, Bunny. Actually, the author of The Things We Do to Our Friends told me about the sequel. I had no idea it was coming out. It's described as a prequel and a sequel, and it's coming out September 2025. So it's going to be one for the end of the year, but let me tell you, I could not be more excited if I tried. I don't know that Bunny like needed a sequel or a prequel or whatever it is, but best believe I'm going to read it. The story very much kind of wrapped up, although that entire book is a bit confusing anyway, but I loved it. I know that book is either going to be something you love or something that really didn't click for you, and that's totally fine, but it did click for me, and I'm so excited for the sequel. Next we have A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. Another one that I've owned for probably about 6 months now. I cannot believe that I haven't read this yet. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my god, I'm reading that next. And then, I don't know, I always have other book plans for videos or whatever. It's just not happened yet. I'm so excited. Like 5-star prediction, 6-star prediction, honestly. It's something to do with a food critic who then kills her partner with an ice pick. I've heard it's described as like quite weird, maybe gross literary fiction. Female rage, potentially. Next I put on here The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. I've only read, I think only one Freida McFadden, which was The Housemaid, and that was a lot of fun. I had a jolly old time. And this is her most recent, I think. So I believe it's something to do with a woman who, she's like going on dates and then she meets a man who is a serial killer. Or no, maybe he's not a serial killer, maybe he just fantasizes about killing people. Either way, like not ideal. And then I want to say her friend gets murdered. It's something along those veins, but I just think, I mean I've only read one Freida McFadden, so I'm not like a wealth of knowledge in this, but I do just think her books are going to be such great books on books, like just so fast paced, you want to keep turning the pages, that kind of thing. And sometimes that is just exactly what I need. I went with The Boyfriend, but really just, I want to read some more Freida McFadden this year. Then, honestly, maybe the book I am actually most scared of on this list, Light by Michael Grant. I want to finally finish this series. If you know, you know. I have been doing a reread of this series all year, just in order to get to this last one, because when I was a kid, I read the whole series. I've said this so many times. When I was a kid, I read this entire series, except the last one, so I've now reread all of them just to read this one, and then it was the only one I didn't read this year. So I would like to get to this, honestly, like ASAP. It's a YA dystopia series about these kids trapped in a dome. They start developing magical powers. It's kind of like a Lord of the Flies situation. They're creating this new town with like new power dynamics. It's a bit horror. It's like YA, so it's not super scary, but there's like monsters and there's a little bit of everything, honestly. It's a really fun series. I'm a bit scared to finish it, to be honest with you, because I've been reading this series for a literal decade. And I think this probably goes to show how good the writing is. I'm equally as invested as I was at 13 or whenever I first read them. I'm probably not the most biased because it does have a lot of nostalgia. This is kind of the series that got me into reading. Yeah, I'm a little scared to see how it's going to end. There's also a couple characters who I will literally never forgive Michael Grant if anything happens to them. That's all I'm going to say. Then, I'm so excited for this. I want to read Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. I have the most gorgeous edition of this book. It says it's a vintage classic or something, but I can't find any other books in this like design, but I know The Girls by Emma Cline has one, but I can't find it anywhere to buy. But I want to get it because it is gorgeous. So if anyone knows where to get these covers from, please let me know, because I'm absolutely obsessed with them and I would love to have like a little collection of them. But anyway, Ottessa Moshfegh is the author of My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which was my favourite book of 2024. I absolutely adored it. So my mission this year is to read everything Ottessa Moshfegh has written. Eileen is her debut, so I'm going to start with that and I'm going to work forward. I don't think she has like a crazy amount. I want to say it's around the 5 or 6 books kind of mark. So I think it's somewhat doable for me to read all of them. She has a couple short story collections as well. Short stories, not my favourite thing, but because I am now obsessed with Ottessa Moshfegh, even though I've only read one book, I will be reading those also. I'm going to start with Eileen because it sounds up my alley. It's something to do with a woman who works in a prison and then this other woman comes in and I think she kind of becomes a bit obsessed with her. I love a woman obsessed story. I love Ottessa Moshfegh's writing. I feel like it can't miss. Then, oh, in such a similar vein, if you think I'm obsessed with Ottessa Moshfegh, equally obsessed with Eliza Clark. I want to read She's Always Hungry. I've read the only other 2 books that Eliza Clark has written, Penance and Boy Parts, both 5 stars, obsessed with both of those books. This is her short story collection, which, as I literally just said, not my favourite thing in the world, but for Eliza Clark, best believe I'm reading it. And it's a very relatable title. And this is a collection of feminist / female rage / horror short stories. I don't really like short story collections, but I love Eliza Clark. So I don't know what I'm going to think of the collection, but if nothing else, I want to own it because it is gorgeous and I need it next to my other Eliza Clark books. Then we have Shark Heart by Emily Habeck. This is a story of a man and his wife, and the man is turning into a great white shark. And it sounds weird as anything, and count me in. I love a weird literary fiction. I think this could be absolutely beautiful, but I also love how it's structured. It's very like vignettes and like very small little like broken up bits of text. I think it's just one that I'm probably going to fly through in one sitting. To be honest, I don't fully know how I'm going to feel about it. Sometimes there's the risk of when something's very broken up, it's harder to get connected to it. But the story, the concept of the book sounds very up my alley. So I'm excited. Then we have another book that I have owned probably over a year now. I can't believe I've not gotten to this yet. It's been on a couple TBRs and I've been literally so excited for it and then not gotten to it. And that is Alone With You in the Ether by Olivie Blake. I've only read, I think, the Atlas 6 from her, and to be honest, this sounds completely different, like worlds away. But I think this almost sounds way more like a book that I would normally be drawn to. I liked the Atlas 6, but it's not necessarily like my normal genre. Whereas this is like the gorgeous writing she had in the Atlas 6, but in my genre. This is some sort of love story, I think, in a psychiatric hospital, I want to say. I can't remember the ins and outs. It's not a romance, it's very much literary fiction, but it is described on the cover as a love story. But she just has this poetic, beautiful way of writing. I just think I'm going to be obsessed with that, and I can't believe I've owned it for as long as I have and haven't got to it. Then an author that I just weirdly am already obsessed with and haven't even read from him before. A Man Called Audrain by Frederick Backman. I could have put any of his books on this list, honestly, but this is the only one I currently own. There's a few that I'm interested in, but I want to start with this one because I think I'm going to sob. And I'm ready to sob. I keep seeing people cry at his books, and I want to cry at his books too. I want to be in the know. This one is about like a grumpy old man, and I think it's a wholesome, funny story. I've never read from him before, but I've seen Frederick Backman do a talk. Like, I just randomly stumbled across a video. I didn't even realise it was him at first. I was just watching like an Instagram reel, but like quite a long one, of this guy talking about books. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's so funny. And then at the end, they said his name and I was like, oh wait, that was Frederick Backman. He's very funny in real life, so I'm really, really hoping that his books are as funny. I think he's going to be. I've literally not come across one single person who doesn't like his books. Next, we have another book that I've owned for a very long time, and this is on the list to encourage me to read it because I am very intimidated of this book, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've read Yellowface from this author, adored it, 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Writing was so quick paced and it literally read like a thriller. I think this one is going to be incredibly different. This is meant to be like a dark academia. I can't really remember what it's about, but I think it's a lot to do with like language. So I do think the writing is going to be more dense, but I think I just need to put the time aside to actually tackle it, because I think there's a chance I could love it. Next we have Private Rights by Julia Armfield. She wrote a book that I absolutely loved last year, and that was Our Wives Under the Sea. This one is it something to do with the end of the world? Oh, this is not at all what I thought it was about. It says it's a speculative reimagining of King Lear. So it centres 3 sisters navigating queer love and loss in a drowning world. So I do think it is slightly to do with the end of the world. We've got 3 estranged sisters and their father has just died, so it's kind of them coming back together. Maybe it's not to do with the end of the world. I don't really know, honestly. I kind of skim read that blurb, but I loved her writing in Our Wives Under the Sea. So she's another one where I'm just very excited to dive back in and read more from her. I think one of my big goals for this year is to read from authors that I love, because I do have a tendency to only ever read one book from an author and absolutely love it and then just never look at anything else they've written. There's honestly actually very few authors I've read from more than once, which I feel like is a shame. Because there are some authors where I'm absolutely obsessed with their books, but I've never even looked into what else they've written, which feels a bit silly. So I think that's a goal of mine for this year. Next up, we have Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, one that I have actually never heard a review of, and yet I know is super popular. Because there are so many Goodreads ratings, I think it's over 1 million, and there are not that many books that have over 1 million. People love this book. It is something to do with a woman who befriends an octopus. I think she works at an aquarium. I think her husband has just died and her son is missing, and the octopus is like helping her solve that mystery. I think it's like a literary mystery vibe. Then we have Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I did actually read a few pages of this when I was on holiday in France with my friends. My friend Sophie was also reading the book. She finished it. I didn't get very far. I just actually barely read on that holiday, which is so unlike me. It is not what I thought it was. I thought it was a romance. It's not. It's kind of sold on the back as a romance. It says it's like a love triangle between this woman and 2 guys. But it's way more to do with her like grappling after, I think her mother died. It's way more to do with that, at least to the point I got at, but she finished the book and she also said it wasn't a romance. I don't know how much I read, not very much, probably like 40 pages. I was really, really enjoying it, but then I put it down, I moved on with my life, and then I kind of just forgot to come back to it. So that's another one that technically was a softie enough. I don't think I actually included that in my end of year wrap up. Insider information for you. And then last but not least, God, I feel like we've actually sped run these. Last but not least, we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I've got a couple of her books because I've got Next of Kin as well, but I think I'm going to start with this one because I think this is a lot of people's favourite. This is something to do with a woman getting pregnant from a one-night stand, I want to say, and then it's kind of like following the pregnancy, but also them two, I guess, getting to know each other because they don't really know each other, but then I guess grappling with becoming new parents. I don't know, but I know people love it, and I'm very, very, very excited. I am so excited for all of my 2025 reads. Obviously, there's way more than these 25 that I want to get to. I'm sure we will get more than 25 read, but these are, I guess, tip top of my TBR for different reasons, as I said at the start. Some I'm just intimidated by and need to put the time aside to get to, and some are like proper, I'm so excited to get my hands on this book because I don't even own some of these. Comment down below what is on your like yearly TBR. I love knowing what people are excited for because I always end up discovering new books whenever you guys tell me what you're excited for or what you're reading at the moment. I genuinely love hearing about it, so please do let me know. And let me know which of these 25 I should start with. I'm excited. I want to read all of them. So hopefully we'll be a little bit more successful this year. My 24 books to read in 2024, I got 13 done. But I have better hopes for this one because I've put more thought into the list, so I'm genuinely a bit more excited. So I have high hopes, but let me know what I should get to first. Anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, comment, all that fun stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. Love you, bye!